A billionaire walked into a small diner at midnight, and when his wallet opened, Claire Bennett saw something that made her blood run cold. A photograph of her mother, Laura Bennett, a woman who had lived her whole life quietly, never once stepping into the world of power or wealth. She had passed away years ago, leaving Claire with an emptiness and thousands of unanswered questions. Why was that photograph inside the wallet of one of the most powerful businessmen in the U.S.? Claire didn't know. That moment would set in motion a chain of events that would cost her her job, her reputation, and her safety, all because she wanted the truth. And she also didn't know, on the other side, there were already people willing to do anything to bury that secret forever. If you believe that every story begins with a small moment like Claire's glance at that photograph, take a few seconds to follow the channel. Here, we tell journeys that touch the heart, where truth and courage meet. The coffee machine dripped in slow, steady beats. Outside the glass window, a flickering neon sign swayed like a drunk, casting a pale green glow over the worn stainless steel counter. Claire Bennett stood behind the bar, cloth in hand, her motions mechanical. Nearly 2 a.m, the hour when only a few long-haul truckers remained, and the whistle of wind through the doorframe kept the place from falling completely silent. The soft chime above the door rang. Claire looked up. A man walked in tall, shoulders straight, a dark blue tailored suit hugging his frame. The yellow ceiling light glinted off his polished buttons like drops of water. He didn't move like the usual late-night customers seeking warmth, but with the calm of someone used to stepping into marble-floored lobbies. He chose the table by the window, facing the long street lined with the shimmer of car lights. Without glancing at the menu, he slowly unbuttoned his suit jacket. Black coffee. His voice was deep, clear, and even the voice of someone accustomed to giving orders. Claire gave a small nod, jotting it down. When she returned with the steaming mug, he only inclined his head slightly, eyes still fixed outside. She set the cup down, tore out the receipt, and in that moment, his wallet opened. A photo slipped from its slot, landing on the table. Claire froze. Her fingers brushed the edge of the photo before he could react. A woman smiled gently from the picture, with her delicate nose and warm brown eyes. There was no mistaking it. Her mother, Laura Bennett. Claire's breath caught. She looked up, meeting his gaze fleeting, unreadable. He took the photo back, slipping it into his wallet with the practiced, deliberate motion of someone used to hiding things. Thank you. Nothing more. No explanation. No question about why she stared. He pulled out a large bill, laid it on the table, and stood. Claire watched as the door opened, and the bell chimed again. A sleek black sedan waited by the curb. The driver, dressed in a dark coat and gloves, opened the rear door. The Silver Shield logo with 2 interlocked letters gleamed under the streetlight, an unfamiliar image she knew she wouldn't forget. The car glided away without a sound. Back at her rented room, Claire hung her coat over the rickety wooden chair. The small space still carried the scent of coffee clinging to her hair. On the table sat an old wooden box, holding the few mementos of her mother, a handful of letters, a worn wool scarf, and a silver necklace engraved with 3 words: forgive, love, begin. She cupped the necklace in her palm, feeling a strange current run through her. That photograph had turned everything upside down. Her mother had never spoken about her father, only once, saying, "He was a good man, but he couldn't stay." Claire closed her eyes, picturing her mother's face from the photo, and that brief, unreadable glance from the man. Not a stranger, yet not familiar. Just a missing piece hidden too long. Her phone buzzed. A message from Maya, her best friend. "Done with your night shift. Get some sleep." Claire typed quickly, "I'm fine." Then deleted it. Typed again. Something strange happened. "I'll tell you tomorrow." Outside, rain began tapping against the tin roof. Claire grabbed a sticky note and wrote 2 words. Must know. She stuck it to the side of the mirror, then looked at the tiny square of yellow paper and down at the silver necklace. The faint engraving caught the light. Forgive, love, begin. But to begin, first, she had to know. That day, Claire slept soundly until noon. But all through the afternoon, The photograph in that man's wallet clung to her mind like a shadow, slipping into every thought. The next morning, as the gray light of rain crept through the gap in the curtains, she sat at her desk and opened her laptop. A steaming mug of coffee sat beside her as she typed in scattered keywords, Silver Shield logo, 2 interlocked letters, on a car door. Dozens of results appeared from insurance companies to local sports teams, but none matched exactly. Then an old news article made her heart pause. A photo taken in front of a towering skyscraper. A row of sleek black cars lined up in perfect order. On the car door, that familiar silver shield gleamed under the lights. Headline: Harrington Global Holdings celebrates 15th anniversary. Claire zoomed in. It was the one. Chairman, William Harrington. Little personal information, but clearly, this was no ordinary name. She leaned back, eyes tracing the ceiling. Harrington, just a name, but now tied to that dark car from that night. And the photograph of her mother. She jotted quickly in her notebook. Harrington Global Holdings find headquarters. Her phone buzzed. A message from Maya. What were you going to tell me yesterday? Claire stared at the screen for a few seconds, then set the phone down. She didn't reply. That afternoon, Claire stood in front of a massive glass tower in the heart of the city. The words, Harrington Global Holdings, were engraved in bold on the stone plaque at the entrance. The lobby was wide, marble-floored, the lights casting long shadows across the polished surface. Employees walked with quick, decisive steps. Access cards slid past scanners with a crisp beep before doors swung open. She drew a deep breath and approached the reception desk. I'd like to see Mr. William Harrington, Claire said, keeping her voice steady. The receptionist smiled politely. Do you have an appointment? No, but this is important. I'm sorry. Mr. Harrington doesn't meet with visitors without a scheduled appointment, the woman said. Still courteous but firm, Claire pressed her lips together, pulled a small slip of paper from her pocket, and quickly wrote, about Laura Bennett keepsake. She slid it across the desk. Please give this to him. He'll understand. The receptionist took it and set it aside. I'll pass it along, but I can't make any promises. Claire gave a faint nod and stepped back, her gaze sweeping the lobby. Light from the revolving door swirled into slow reflections on the glossy glass panels. In a far corner, Vanessa Clark, dressed in a jade green fitted dress, was waiting for Ethan Harrington. When she saw him step out from the VIP section, she walked up, leaning in close. I just heard that girl mention Laura Bennett. Ethan frowned. Who? Not sure, but I heard her say both keepsake and he'll understand. But I think you should look into it. She glanced toward Claire, who was already leaving the building. If there's even a drop of blood relation, you know what that would mean for your share. Ethan's reply was curt. Could be nothing, or not, Vanessa said with a faint smile, her eyes sharp as a blade. And if it's not, you'll wish you'd acted sooner. That evening, as Claire prepared a simple dinner in her tiny kitchen, her laptop chimed with a new email. Subject line, regarding your appointment from a subsidiary of Harrington Global. The body was brief. We have received your information. We will be in touch. Claire read it several times. A door had just opened. If only a sliver. She didn't know. In a luxury apartment just a few miles away, Vanessa was pouring Ethan a glass of wine. She'll be back. And when she does, we'll know exactly what to do, Vanessa said, her voice tinged with a hint of amusement. Vanessa Clark didn't act immediately after crossing paths with Claire in the Harrington Global lobby. She sat in her car, eyes on the stream of pedestrians, fingers lightly brushing her phone screen. The name Laura Bennett and the word keepsake kept looping in her head like a speck of dust in a perfect glass of wine, small, but enough to make her want answers. When Ethan walked in, Vanessa had already decided. I want to know who she is, she said plainly, her voice even but her gaze sharp. If she's connected to him, we need to deal with it before it becomes a problem. Ethan raised an eyebrow, asking what she planned to do. Vanessa simply smiled, saying it would take only a few calls. That afternoon, through a contact in the service industry, she had everything she needed. Claire Bennett's full name, the address of her rented room, and her workplace a small diner that stayed open all night. A short drive from downtown. She sent the details to Ethan, along with a few photos pulled from Claire's social media. A regular waitress, but if she's gone to him, you know what that means. Ethan didn't reply, only stared a moment longer at the phone screen. 2 nights later, the wind picked up. Claire was working the evening shift, with customers coming and going in a slow trickle. Around her neck glinted the silver necklace engraved with 3 words: forgive, love, begin. The piece she had, without thinking, put on that morning. Around 8 o'clock, a group of 3 walked in, a young woman in a red dress and 2 well-dressed men. Their cologne sharp and heavy, they took the table by the window, laughing loudly. Claire brought menus, took their order, and kept her polite smile. Then the diner door opened again. An older man with silver hair, wearing a Harrington Global Security uniform, stepped in and sat at the counter. Black tea. No sugar. To go, he said slowly and clearly. Claire nodded as she handed him the cup. His gaze caught on her necklace. I haven't seen one of these in a long time, he murmured, almost to himself. Claire paused. You know it, she asked. He looked up, as if realizing he'd said too much. No, just looked familiar, he replied, then left quickly, avoiding her eyes. Half an hour later, the group at the window got up to leave, but minutes later, one of the men came back, looking agitated. Miss, I left my wallet here and now it's gone. Claire immediately checked the table, bending to look under the chairs, but found nothing. You're sure you left it here? She asked. Positive. And you were the only one near the table. Right. A few customers began to turn their heads. The shift manager hurried over. What's going on? The man spoke quickly. My wallet's missing, and she's the only one who came close. Claire straightened, meeting the manager's eyes. I didn't take it. If you want, call the police so they can check. The manager frowned, looking between the man and Claire. If a customer says something's missing, that's serious. For now, head home. We'll talk tomorrow. It sounded like a suspension. Claire unfastened her apron, heat creeping up her neck, and walked out without looking back. Outside, the night was thick and dark. She followed the sidewalk toward home. Turning into a smaller street, a voice called from behind. You remind me of someone from a long time ago. Claire turned. It was an older cleaning staff member from Harrington Global, someone she'd glimpsed in the lobby. Who? She asked quickly. The woman shook her head. It's nothing, she said, hurrying away, leaving Claire standing with 100 questions. Her hand closed tight around the necklace. 2 different people, 2 days apart, both reacting to it. The feeling was part confusion, part a pull to dig deeper. Across the street, a dark sedan idled just long enough to watch her. Inside, Vanessa leaned toward the driver's side, eyes locked on Claire's fading figure. Ethan sat beside her, silent. Well, Vanessa asked. This is just the beginning, Ethan said, the corner of his mouth twitching upward. The car slid into traffic, leaving the sidewalk empty except for the night wind rattling the edges of neon signs. The next morning, Claire was jolted awake by the persistent buzz of her phone. A message from an old coworker flashed on the screen. Is this you? Followed by a link. She tapped it. A rapidly spreading online article opened, with a photo of her standing outside Harrington Global's headquarters. The bold headline read, Waitress confronts CEO Harrington's secret love child, or gold digger. The text mixed fact and speculation, dredging up the alleged theft at the diner as an unresolved incident and questioning her motives for being at the company's headquarters. The comment section was a stream of barbed words. Classic gold digger. If she's an illegitimate kid, she's probably trouble too. Claire closed the screen, but the words felt carved into her mind. Her phone rang. Maya, have you seen this? Maya's voice carried both worry and doubt. I have, Claire said flatly. Claire, are you sure you know what you're doing? People don't write things like this without a reason. Claire gripped the phone tighter. I just want the truth. About my mother. Maya was silent for a moment, then sighed. But if they've started smearing you, you're going to lose more than you think. So what? Losing my reputation for seeking the truth is better than living my whole life in a lie. Claire cut in. When the call ended, Claire opened her laptop, The article came from a tabloid site, but the image originated from an anonymous social media account. She created a new account and sent a message requesting the photo be removed, but got no reply. Trying a free IP tracing tool, she found only vague data. A server in the city, not enough to pinpoint, but enough to narrow the field. That afternoon, Claire went to a small cafe in the neighborhood. Josh, an old friend and former IT guy, now managed the place. She set her phone in front of him. "Can you help me find where this came from?" Josh glanced over it, frowning. "This is a planted story. See? It went live and got shared instantly by a bunch of accounts. You could trace who paid for this campaign, but it won't be easy." "I don't need everything," Claire said. "Just who started it." Josh typed a few commands, eyes fixed on the screen. Minutes later, he looked up. "Weird. Part of the trail leads to a small media company, but that company is indirectly owned by Harrington Global." Heat surged to Claire's face. She and Josh didn't need to say anything. They both understood what that meant. That night, when she returned to her apartment, a black envelope lay at her door. Inside was a photo of her at the diner, along with a scrap of paper scrawled with the words, "Stop, or no one will remember Laura Bennett." She sat in the chair, reading the line over and over. Instead of fear, a cold steadiness spread through her. If they wanted to silence her with smears and threats, it only proved they had something to hide. Claire opened her notebook and added a line beneath her old notes. "They've begun, so will I." The pen stilled, but her eyes didn't. She picked up her phone and texted Maya, "No matter what happens, I'll find the one behind this." Without waiting for a reply, Claire set the phone down and stared into the darkness beyond the window, where the night seemed to whisper a challenge. Claire sat alone at a window table in a small cafe across from a 12-story commercial building, the cold glass against her arm as she leaned slightly to look outside. On the table, her Americano had gone cold. Josh had given her this address, a place connected to the media company behind the smear piece. She didn't know exactly what she was waiting for, only that it felt like an invisible thread had pulled her here. Outside, the midday street was busy but not noisy. Sunlight pouring down onto the asphalt and flashing off parked cars. Claire tracked each person walking out of the building, each car pulling away. Nearly an hour passed. She took a sip of the bitter coffee, just as a gleaming red coupe turned to the curb, stopping in front of the entrance. The passenger side door opened first. A woman stepped out, light brown hair in loose waves, a black-fitted dress cut to perfection, heels striking the dry pavement in crisp beats. She turned her head to say something, then the driver's door opened, and Ethan Harrington got out, phone in hand, his light gray suit tailored to fit. Claire narrowed her eyes. A flicker of recognition rose the Harrington Global lobby, the green silk dress under warm lights, the way that woman had glanced at her before leaning in to whisper to Ethan. Back then, Claire had only caught two words, Laura Bennett, and now they were together again, at a building linked to the media company. The pieces in her mind suddenly aligned. Ethan and the woman walked into a lounge on the ground floor. Claire's heart picked up, a mix of nerves and anger. If she wanted the truth, this was the moment. She set cash on the table, grabbed her bag, and crossed the street. The lounge was wrapped in soft golden light, the scent of oak and roasted coffee mingling, slow jazz drifting like smoke. Claire walked straight to the corner table where they sat. "We need to talk," she said, her voice cutting through the music and low murmur of conversation. Ethan looked up, his brow furrowing. He began, but Claire cut him off. "The one you've both been trying to smear and silence. And I want to know why." The woman slowly removed her sunglasses, her gaze sweeping over Claire, as if appraising a cheap item. "What a surprise. You've walked straight into the most dangerous place. I call it walking toward the truth," Claire replied, holding her stare. "The media company you hired spread that garbage about me." The woman tilted her head, smiling with a blade-sharp edge. "I only brought the truth into the light. A waitress shows up at Harrington headquarters, trying to get close to the boss. Sound familiar? I'm not after money," Claire said firmly. "I want answers." Ethan leaned back in his chair, his tone bitter. "Who do you think you are to demand anything?" Claire shot back instantly. "And you are?" You sure you even know what you're protecting? Ethan hesitated, but the woman laid a hand on his, signaling him to stay silent. Do you think a few words from you will make us confess? She asked with a quiet laugh. No, Claire said, leaning forward. But it's enough to tell me you're afraid of the truth coming out. The woman glanced toward the door. From the shadows, a tall, broad-shouldered man in a dark coat stepped forward. Claire recognized him instantly. The man in the SUV who had tailed her the night before. The woman leaned in, her voice like a cold blade sliding past Claire's ear. This will be the last time you stick your nose into what doesn't concern you. If I stop, Claire replied, eyes locked on hers, it means I'm letting you bury the truth. The woman's lips curved faintly. The man advanced, his shadow stretching across the tile, footsteps heavy as hammers. The distance between them closed with each step. The jazz still played. But to Claire, the air felt tight, the room closing in. The man's footsteps struck the tile floor, each one heavy, closing the gap between him and Claire. Only a few paces away, the sharp tang of cigarette smoke and sweat hung in the thick air. Claire didn't step back, but her shoulders tightened. Across the table, Vanessa sat with her legs crossed, her eyes razor-sharp with satisfaction. I told you, this is the last time you interfere, she said, each word slow and deliberate. Stop. The voice was deep, firm, and came from the doorway, not loud, but enough to halt the room. The man froze, his fist dropping. Claire turned sharply. Standing in the doorway was William Harrington, tall, broad-shouldered, salt and pepper hair, dressed in a perfectly tailored dark blue suit, his cold gray eyes sweeping the room. Behind him was the older security guard Claire had met at the diner days earlier. Dad, Ethan stammered, but William didn't answer. He walked straight over, positioning himself between Claire and the man. Out! He ordered. His tone clipped. The man bowed his head, stepped back, but not before casting Claire a look full of threat. Before disappearing, William turned to Vanessa and Ethan. Who's going to explain this to me? Vanessa spoke first, her voice laced with contempt. You don't know. She's been following you and the family, claiming to be your daughter, a black waitress from some all-night diner. What do you make of that? You couldn't have fathered someone like her. The room went still. William stepped forward, his voice low, but each word landing like a weight. Skin color doesn't determine blood or a person's worth. And if you ever open your mouth to insult Claire again, I'll make sure it's the last time you set foot through any door with the Harrington name on it. Trust me, you don't want to find out what that means. Vanessa shifted back slightly, lips pressed tight. Claire drew a steady breath. Mr. Harrington, what she's saying is a lie. The wallet incident at the diner was a setup. They sat at a window table, left, then came back claiming I'd taken it. I asked them to call the police, but the manager believed them and sent me home on the spot. She reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and showed a screenshot. This is from security footage. A co-worker gave me the wallet being slipped into that man's jacket before he left the table. They staged it to smear me. She swiped to another email. And this is the smear article. Tracing the IP shows it was posted from a media company indirectly owned by Harrington Global. A friend in IT found it. William studied the screen, his expression darkening. He looked to Ethan and Vanessa. Anything you want to say? Ethan avoided his gaze, while Vanessa gave a thin smile. You really believe the scraps she's showing you? A necklace and a few blurry photos. Claire lifted the silver chain. This necklace was my mother's, Laura Bennett, given to me before she died. Look closely. William bent forward, his eyes catching on the 3 engraved words. Forgive, love, begin. A memory surged. He had given that necklace to Laura the day she left. The inscription chosen by his own hand. He looked up. How old are you? 27. He calculated it matched the time Laura had vanished from his life, plus the months of pregnancy. You've never known your father? No. My mother only told me he was a good man, but couldn't stay. I've spent the past year trying to find him. William held her gaze for a long moment, then nodded slowly, as if the final piece had fallen into place. If what you say is true, then I left you to grow up alone. I'm sorry. Claire, I've missed too much, but if you'll let me, I'll make up for the rest of your life. He turned to Ethan. As of tomorrow, you step down from your current position. You'll work at a small branch, no assistant, no privileges. Then his eyes moved to Vanessa. And you're barred from all Harrington global properties and events. My lawyers will be in touch about your role in hiring someone to smear Claire. Vanessa's face went pale, and her lips clamped shut. Ethan bowed his head, silent. William turned back to Claire, his tone softening. I can't change the past. But if you give me the chance, I want to start over. From here, Claire gave a small nod, tears in her eyes, but her gaze was steady. I'll give you that chance, but not your money. I want to stand on my own first. William nodded. Fair enough. Just know, I'll always be here. The air in the lounge settled after William's decision. Vanessa left without looking back, her high heels striking the floor in sharp, angry beats. Ethan remained seated, his eyes avoiding both his father and Claire. William rested a hand lightly on Claire's shoulder, as if to steady her after everything that had just happened. Let's go, he said, his voice no longer the cold command of a powerful businessman, but carrying a trace of hesitation, the voice of a father unsure where to begin. Outside, the streetlights had come on, their golden glow stretching in long reflections across the rain-wet pavement. The black sedan was waiting, but William didn't open the door right away. He turned to Claire. I don't want you going back to that rented room tonight. There's a place, if you agree. Let me take you there. Claire hesitated briefly, then nodded. The car rolled slowly through the lit streets. No one spoke. But the silence was no longer heavy. It felt like space for the two of them to grow accustomed to each other's presence. When the car stopped, Claire found herself in front of an old red brick house, its porch draped with tiny lights. This house belonged to my parents, William said. I've kept it the same. It's also the place I always hoped Laura would come back to. Claire stepped inside, the scent of old wood mingling with a faint trace of jasmine, tightening something in her chest. William handed her a small box. I found this among Laura's things after she left. I never knew why she left it behind. But now, I think it belongs to you. Claire opened it to find a photo of a younger Laura standing beside William on a beach, the wind tossing her hair. In the corner, in soft handwriting, forgive, love. Begin! William touched the edge of the frame, his gaze distant. I loved your mother, not just because she was beautiful, but because she had a way of seeing the world I'd never known in anyone else. Laura could pull me away from cold numbers and make me see the people behind them. Whenever I was lost, she would brew jasmine tea, write these 3 words on the corner of a napkin, and say, when you don't know what to do, start with the smallest kindness. I never cared about the color of her skin, because the first and last thing I saw was the light in her eyes and the warmth in her smile. It was that warmth that made me break through every barrier others tried to put between us. He paused, his voice dropping. Your mother didn't leave because she stopped loving me. She left because she thought staying would cost me everything. At the time, I was in the middle of a boardroom war, and Laura. She chose to carry the pain alone to protect me. She never told me this truth, but I found out too late. By the time I traced her steps, she was gone, taken by the heart condition she'd hidden. William drew in a breath, then smiled faintly. Laura used to joke, our child will have your bright eyes and my warm brown skin. Today, when I look at you, I see both. Claire's hand closed around the necklace at her throat. In the faint scent of jasmine, the distance between them seemed to shrink without the need for words. Thank you, but I still want to stand on my own, at least until I know I truly deserve whatever you want to give me. William nodded with a small smile. I understand. Making things right isn't always about money. From now on, I'll be here. Whenever you need me. They sat together at the old wooden table, trading fragments of stories about Laura, about the years they'd missed, about how Claire had grown up. Each question and answer felt like laying one more brick in a bridge being rebuilt. When Claire was ready to leave, William walked her to the door. The night breeze carried jasmine from the back garden. Across the street, Ethan leaned against a car, watching them. His expression held no coldness or challenge, but something quieter, Almost uncertain, he stepped forward a few paces and stopped in front of Claire. Today, when I heard my father speak about your mother, I realized I've been too blind, too focused on holding my position to see what truly mattered. I don't want to make that mistake again. Claire nodded slightly. Without blame, we all need time, she said. William looked at his son without speaking, but a faint flicker of relief crossed his eyes. The sedan took Claire back to her small rented room. But tonight, everything was different. The journey to uncover the truth was over, and a new journey had just begun. One to forgive, to love, and to begin again. If this story resonates with you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to follow and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next stories where every journey deserves to be heard.